Okay, so this week we're doing ghosts. So the big painting is going to be ghosts and the little painting is going to be ghosts because I've had ghosts on the brain and I've had about 20 million different ideas. So this is the one that we're going to start with. um, we're going to try a couple of different things. The reference drawing is available on my website. It's like $1, but it helps me buy the materials to keep doing this. We are using the Dr. P.H. Martin's this time, except I don't have Dr. P.H. Martin's Paynes Gray, so I'm using Mastertouch Paynes Gray. Then I have Amber Yellow, Daffodil Yellow, Blue. I have some black. I haven't put it on the palette yet because I don't want to cause any problems. And we're just going to kind of play with this and see what happens. To try to do all this a little bit dark, so it's going to be more the impression of a house instead of really worrying about making sure everything is perfect. Then we're going to use probably bleed proof white because it is my favorite thing to put in these little ghosts, and then we'll do the foreground with little lighter colors and put in some brushes, or not brushes, grasses up here in the front. So and then maybe some birds or bats in the back, and then you have your tree. So we're really just going to play with this and see what happens. But I've had ghosts on the brain, so now we have ghosts on the painting. So I will try to tell you what brushes I use when I use them. I've got water. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to paint these windows because I want them to kind of glow from within. So I'm going to paint these windows. The moon, I may come back and do that in bleed proof white. I'm not sure just yet, but I want to get these windows in while my water is clean and there's nothing to basically distort my yellow. So I'm going to get my, this is a 6. I'm going to get some of my Daffodil Yellow. Now this Daffodil Yellow from Dr. P.H. Martin's glows. It's really kind of nice. So what I'm going to do is just put it here. I don't care that I'm outside the lines of the window because when we put the paint over it, it'll cover that up, but we'll make sure that there's no spots that aren't getting put through with this. So we're just kind of throwing some yellow in here. And we're just going real quick, putting in some yellow. We may add curtains later. Must be fun following along with me when I'm like, I have no idea what we're doing. But you see the end product, so it usually turns out. Okay. And I'm trying to keep it off the ghost, even though I'm going to use bleed proof white on the ghost. I think that will cause some problems. Let's tap these. I've decided he needed little lights outside the door. And this window here. So now I'm going to rinse my brush, tap it on my paper towel to kind of make sure it's nice and clean. My paper towel probably needs to be cleaned. It's a good thing you can't see it. Now I'm taking some of this amber yellow and I'm going to water it down just a little bit because it can be really, really strong. And I'm just going to touch it in the windows. Okay, I need a smaller brush because that is way too much. This looks like a 2. We'll use a 2. And we're just going to dab. There we go. That's better. Try to get to it where it's wet. We'll pull some of this up. And you can do each window at a time if you want. I'm putting the light only on one side. You don't have to. That's just how I'm doing it. Some of the windows have more light showing. This is definitely a trust the process. I'm going to have to remind myself of that too, because right now I'm like, what in the world am I doing? But that's okay. And then the front door. Actually kind of going along the lines of that like rose-shaped window and touching it on those. Okay. So then I'm going to grab clean paper towel. And where I think I put in too much, like right here, I'm just gonna tap it with the paper towel and kind of pull it up some. Okay, so that should help. It'll help it dry a little faster. And that's just I really love paper towel work. It's like my fourth paintbrush. So when we do the sky, it's going to be darker over here, but really light here. And there's ghosts and mists and everything everywhere. So we're not going to go on with a hugely dark amount of wash here. We're going to make it lighter so that the house really shows. So I'm using a 1-inch, 3/4 inch square wash brush. And I'm getting my Paynes gray. The reason I like to use Paynes gray so much is it has blue undertones. So these blue undertones kind of give me a little bit more depth and dimension than just using straight black. Now, I am not against black, and I will probably use black. But for right now, I'm just putting a little bit of Paynes gray here, and I'm getting a little bit touch of the turquoise blue. There we go. And that gives us a really fun color, and we're just going to start doing a wash across this painting. Don't worry about hitting things. It's going to be fine. Everything's getting painted over. Avoid your yellows. Okay, so we have kind of like a navy. Now you do want to make sure you don't lose your sky or your outline. So this is a little darker than I was wanting. There we go. And that's the bonus with this Dr. P.H. Martin's is it lightens really nicely. And I'm going to treat this kind of like a vignette. So the edges are darker. It'll make sense in a minute. So I'm putting the paint out here on the edges, and then I'm dipping my brush in water, and then I'm pulling that across so it gets lighter as it goes. And get some more of that and just drop it in here, and that'll bring it out. Make sure it goes behind the house. I know it's scary to paint over your things that are keeping white, but don't worry about it. We've got bleed-proof white, which is probably the best invention ever, and it will lighten those areas back up again. So I'm mixing some more. It may not be exactly the same color. That's okay. We're gonna just pull. I want this foreground to be pretty dark. I'm hitting that ghost a little, but that's okay. I want it dark, but I don't want it as the dark as possible because the grass that we're going to put in later won't show up if it's too dark. So we're just playing with kind of our midtones right now. And this section here, it needs to be painted. It's like underneath the house. This one too, you want to get this up underneath the house. Okay, we need more paint. Starting on the edges, bringing it across, blending out those colors a little bit. The reason I like to use a big wash brush is A, it works quicker. And B, it kind of makes fun little atmospheric lines. So that just did that. That's cool. It kind of looks like it could be like a ghost just floating up there in the sky. So we're just going to let that happen. And I don't even know that I can recreate it, but that's That's absolutely cool. Now I'm just getting my brush wet and just finishing up all of this. I'm gonna need a little bit more because this line is too dark right here between the two colors. I want to soften that. Okay, and so over here, what I really like is there's like this little atmospheric blending that happened right in here. So it looks a little bit misty. That's perfect. Add a little bit more water and darken this section up a bit, as we're probably gonna put some trees in there. I don't know. So now I'm gonna just drop in so it makes a little misty effect coming up from the ground. And I'm holding the brush sideways here and letting the edge of the wash brush make the lines and do all the work for me. Again, we're gonna paint over most of this, so I don't know why I'm being so fiddly about it, but I just want it this way, so I'm gonna do it this way. Okay, so now your background's done. Yay, the background's done. Okay, so at this point, I really do think you should let this dry a little bit. Otherwise, everything is gonna get way too dark too quickly, and you're gonna have trouble with certain aspects of it. This little spot right here in front of my ghost isn't very dark, so we're gonna, there we go. So I like the way this is drying. It almost looks like the moors. If you've read Wuthering Heights, they're always complaining about the moors in England. Okay. I'm gonna stop messing with that, and we're gonna let this dry. So I'm gonna pause it and then come back when it's dry. I think that's better than just sitting here and listening to me ramble. So let's make this dry, and then we will come back and start working on the house. We'll see you soon. Okay, we should be sufficiently dry, and what I'm gonna do is use my wash brush because I like this nice flat edge. We're gonna see what happens. But we're just gonna kind of block in the house and start with where it should be the darkest. So it's gonna be the darkest right here underneath this like porch roof thing, and in the shadow here where, yeah, architecture is not my strong point, where this piece of the house sticks out. And then under here, it's gonna be darker. So we're gonna take some straight Paynes gray, and I'm moving my brush back and forth so it just gets on the edge. And we're gonna try to pull down shadows in these spots. So I'm just gonna pull down some shadows. And we're gonna give the impression of the shapes, but we're not gonna be too concerned about them, I hope. Now, with as dark as this is, I am gonna try to avoid the ghost. Hopefully I can. I'm just pulling that down. There's a post right there, but that's okay. We'll get to it in a second. Okay, and then we're gonna also have a shadow. So I'm gonna get some more of the Paynes gray. And I'm gonna put this underneath. I'm gonna say those are gutters. I don't actually know what they are. And when I did my reference photo, I just decided I wanted it to have creepy looking house kind of situation. So then we're gonna go over here. And if you don't like working with this big wash brush, then don't. Get a smaller brush, it's absolutely fine. And I'm gonna put this underneath. And then we're gonna have a shadow. So I'm gonna get some more of the Paynes gray. And I'm gonna put this underneath. I'm gonna say those are gutters. I don't actually know what they are. And when I did my reference photo, I just decided I wanted it to have creepy looking house kind of situation. So then we're gonna go over here. And if you don't like working with this big wash brush, then don't. Get a smaller brush, it's absolutely fine. And it's okay if this isn't completely consistent. We're talking about shadows. So our light source is actually here because the moon is going to be blowing over this way. So just so you kind of have an idea. Now, if I didn't have the paper taped down, I would turn it sideways, but I have it taped down. So I'm going to try to get this edge and just pull. And then the house, the edge comes down here too. You can see it. That's just this random line that you're probably like, what the heck is that line? That's what that is. And I'm trying not to get it into the support post because we will try to make that a little different. And then let's, again with the brush, just give like the edge of the porch here. Just using the edge of the brush to kind of get that porch edge. And it's just barely out right here. Okay. I realize that looks crazy. It's okay. So now I'm going to take a little bit more of the Paynes gray, but I'm going to get my brush wet and then tap it on my water glass and start doing these roof bits. I'm going to tap the brush on some paper and pull up some of that because it got a little darker than I wanted. But this can give it that texture of a roof, which I like. And then we're going to do the same thing on this part of the roof. Tap your brush in some water, wipe it off, get some Paynes gray. And we're just going to keep doing that with these little roof sections. And we will probably come back in with a neater brush and some black and really add in the gutters and everything and that chimney to make it look really nice and dark. So that's a little too dark because we're losing that shadow. And then just by tapping it like this, you get that little impression of the clapboards. I think the clapboards is the right term. So now we're going to really, really carefully go around the windows. And for once, I am going to try to do this from left to right because I am right-handed instead of how I always do it, which is right to left, and then I drag my hand through it. So we're going to start over here and just pull it down. Okay, and then you're gonna turn the brush sideways and get the edges of the window and just kind of come over. Ooh, that's a fun effect. Okay. I really, really, really like the way that worked. So, I think I'm going to keep doing it sideways and just tap it in. Originally, I had the clapboards going vertical or horizontal, but making them vertical is kind of fun, and I like the way that is working right there. So that is really fun, and we're just going to keep tapping that in like that. Now you're going to have to, or you can just drop your brush. It's okay. I will fix that. I don't care. It's all right. No need getting stressed out about it. We'll figure it out when we get to that part, right? And then we're going to do the same here. I'm going to start at these windows. I'm going to start right to left and just kind of tap it in. It gives that impression of like wood boards. And this is kind of a experimentation. We're just seeing what happens. And if you don't like this, do it a different way. But I just think this has turned out really neat, and it's a neat way to give it texture without me having to do a lot of work. And we're just going to clean it up right here. And we need to get above that window. So we're going to turn the brush the other way and go above the window. Windows have sills around them, so it would make sense. No, I really, really, really like the way that is. And it's darker on this side. I love this. We'll see how it looks in the finished product. Like, we are just putting this stuff down now. We can always add details and change things for later. Okay, so now we're going to go to the top window first, and again, try to do it from this side over. That's going to have a nice line. And then I made it so there was like an architectural detail right here. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in and pull down a little, just so there's a shadow. And we're going to do on the other side of the window. And I know wooden boards very rarely go vertical like this. It's okay. It's an old creepy house down the street. No one cares. And then I just keep adding more paint to the brush as I come in and do this next section. Again, I'm trying to remember to go the right direction. Making that nice line, and then tapping in my boards. Okay, I'm weirdly having a lot of fun with this. Okay, do the other side. And I am holding the brush straight up and down so that the edge of the brush is doing this fun texture thing. You could also do it in gouache. Gouache might be really cool because it would be a little flatter. Watercolor tends to be a little bit more vibrant. Okay, so now we have kind of the top of the house. The bottom, these are porch windows, pretty much kind of all in shadows. So what I'm actually going to do is get my 6 so I can make some clean lines, and get the Paynes gray and load up my brush, and let's go ahead and put this post in. Again, I'm trying to work right to left or left to right because I never remember to do that and it always messes me up. So I'm using the belly of the brush to just pull that line. And a lot of the details in this are just going to get lost in the shadows. That's okay. That's why we're making a spooky, spooky house. We lost the head of our ghost. It's okay. And you'll notice that when this Paynes gray hits the daffodil yellow, sometimes it makes a little bit of green. It's okay. It's totally fun. I know I'm leaving the window frames blank for now. I'm going to come in and outline the window frames in black, I think. I think that's going to work better because the black is going to be just that much darker. So it's going to really, really work. So we'll keep the door. We'll make the door black too. And these posts. I know sometimes you're just like, I want to see how this is going to look, and it looks so weird right now. Yeah, I'm with you. It's looking a little weird. It's okay. Lighten that up a little. There's lights around it, so it shouldn't be quite so dark. And again, I'm trying to avoid the ghosts. They will probably be fine once we put the bleed proof white over them, but and if you mess up, the bleed proof white will work great. It's okay. But you see here where the yellow is kind of bleeding in and it looks like it's lighting up the exterior of this house. That's really a cool effect and it's really fun. So we're going to keep that. And then this one goes all the way out to here. I'm leaving the eyes of the ghost till last because I don't want them to bleed when we put more color on. Let's do this other post. And then there's just like a little access area of the porch that just kind of sticks out right here. There we go. So we were just putting in the basic details. I know it still looks crazy. It's okay. So now we're going to do the tree. And you can do a tree on either side. You can do 2 trees. You can do all sorts of trees. For now, I'm going to do 1 tree. And if I need to add another tree, we'll do it. So I'm going to actually use a round 10. And I'm pushing down with the brush at the bottom of the tree and pulling up and letting it go. So that gave me like a nice little rounded effect. The light is in the wrong spot because it should be coming from over here, but that's okay. Let's do the other side of this tree. And then we're going to pull up. All right, now we can use a smaller brush. I'm going to use the 6 for a lot of them, and then maybe we'll switch to a 2 for really, really detailed fine ones. So again, I'm loading up the brush, and we're going to make branches. So we're going to do that in the same way. We're going to push and pull away, and then raise it up to a tip. If it doesn't follow the outline, that's fine. It was just kind of a basic idea of where I wanted there to be branches. Trees are, people get really afraid of them, but they're really just wise. Just make a lot of wise. Just make them thick at the bottom and thicker at the top. Okay. And they can overlap each other, especially if you put one down earlier. That's a great effect. So it'll look darker. Take this one up like this. There we go. Okay, so now we're going to switch to the little itty bitty brush, which I am using an art brush too, which isn't quite the same as the Princeton 2s, but it's okay. Okay, and then we're going to just kind of fill in itty bitty. Little ones that go off of that. Just anywhere you feel like a branch should be. It's really here for atmosphere, to make it look like it's the creepy house at the end of the street. And if you have an even smaller brush, you can make even smaller ones. I am really trying to hold the brush straight up and down here though, to get these teeny tiny little lines. I'm going to take it over the front of the house. Ooh, yeah. Okay, so I like that. I'm going to add just a little bit more to the bottom here. So that part's all done. This top part's dry, so let's get some black. I'm going to put some black on my palette. Okay, I'm going to try again because my dropper doesn't want to work. There we go. Now we have some black. So let's put in these really, really dark spots to really just give it that little bit of extra oomph. Okay, so I'm putting the black over here. You can see the difference between the black and the Paynes gray if you can see the palette. I tried to make it in the video this time. I don't know that it worked. drying it off on the towel, and I'm going in and I am making that chimney. Okay. So I'm going to take a little bit more of the paint off the brush and come up and do these gutters here. Maybe hit this edge a little bit. Okay, and then we're gonna get some more black. We're gonna keep doing these gutters. Look at me remembering to go from left to right this time. And then there's a bit of a shadow that goes underneath. Same on this side. Let's do this pole again in black. Take it all the way up there. I guess it's a column. Let's do this column and then do this one. Okay, so it's starting to look really cool. I'm really enjoying it. I am thought I had a Princeton too, but I guess I don't. I have so many Princeton 6s, I just don't have any Princeton 2s. Okay, so we're gonna go back to, this is an art brush 2, and I'm gonna do the frames around these windows. And I'm also doing those in black. Make the brush a little drier. This is one of the problems with the liquid watercolor. If you put it on too heavy, it can be a bit much. So I'm gonna run it back and forth on my palette a little to get a little bit of the excess off the brush, and we will do these windows. And if you want them to be like creepy windows that are kind of broken, it's totally fine. It's your painting. to harden this line right here though. There we go. And you can see as it dries, things get darker. It's cool. We will adjust when we're at the very end to see what we like and what we don't like, what we need to adjust. All right, so I'm going to use the little brush to go around the outside of the window. And now that a lot of the paint has been removed from the brush, I go straight up and down and do these little window panes. And there were hooks for these lights, so I'm going to put them back. I'm grabbing my 6 and more black to finish the bottom of this door. Okay, now it's time to work on the ghosts. This section here is for sure dry, and we're probably pretty dry here. I will do this one last, and that a chimney just doesn't look like it wants to dry, so I'm not sure when we're gonna do that. So we're gonna open the bleed proof white, and I know that my water is not clean. I don't care. So I'm gonna get water and put that into my bleed proof white. Okay, there's quite a bit on this brush. That's okay. We are going to, yes, this is what I want to do. Follow the lines of the wrinkles as best you can. And you don't need to make it perfect at the bottom. And if you see how I put that down, the brush strokes are giving us the wrinkles, which is great. And where I drop the brush, again, not a big deal. So I'm just going back in. I don't normally put this on the palette unless I'm doing sponge work, which I'm going to do in a minute, but I gotta let a bunch of things dry before I can do sponge work. So again, we're gonna pull and yeah, you're losing some of the shadows. It's okay. So that's pretty well done. Let's see what we can do about this moon up here. Again, we're going to be really careful because that chimney to me looks really wet. So I don't want to get too close to the chimney. I'm putting it on in a rounded shape. And it's a really bright moon. Oops, it's okay. Moons have darkness in them. We're going to try a trick here in a second. So now I'm going to take my sponge. I always have a sea sponge that I like to paint with. This one is dry. We're going to see what happens. Okay, so that gave us a really fun moon texture, and we just used a sponge. He's a little dark at the bottom, totally cool. We're probably going to come back in and add some, words are escaping me, bats or birds. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to actually add some of the bleed proof white to the palette. And we're going to make a mist at the bottom of this house with our sponge. So I'm getting the sponge nice and covered, and we're just going to go in. I'm going to try to avoid my ghosts, and I'm just going to lay in at the bottom of this tree. And it's okay if you think it's too dark, you can go in with a brush and fade it out. Okay, so I need some more mist around this little guy. It's like ghostly ephemera or something. Kind of popping up into here. Okay. I know that looks crazy. We're going to try something. It could ruin it. I don't think it's going to, but we're going to try it. So we're going to take a clean brush and make sure it's fairly dry and just kind of fuzz that out a little. And it's working beautifully. It's always fun when what I think is going to work works. So we're just fuzzing this out, and if it gets too dark or anything, we just use the paper towel. So again, fairly dry brush. We'll say it's damp. And we're just going to tone down the mist a little bit. Really misting the bottom of that ghost. It's okay. In between the house and the ghost. But it's misty enough that the ghost or the pole is showing through, but you just have your little ghost effect going on here. Okay, I keep cleaning or rinsing the brush and getting it a little bit damper as I move from section to section. And we're going to just try that here too. This one might not work as well because there's so many colors underneath there, but that's okay. It's like the fog in a graveyard, just kind of rolling in. And I'm very, very lightly tapping the brush after I got it damp to tone down the sponge effect, but give us all of this cool stuff. Okay, I really like that. Let's hit these ghosts a little bit and give them back their shape and their eyeballs, and then put the stuff in the front, and hopefully we'll be done. We'll see. So I seem to always want to use the 6. I'm going to use the 6. I cleaned it, I dried it off, and then I still have some of this turquoise blue. So I am going to really, really, really water that down. Like, so there's barely any color in it. There we go. And we are going to put back in the shadows of our little ghosty here. It's really light. And he had some shadows. Maybe not as many. Where is my outline? I set my outline aside and I couldn't remember where I had put the shadows on this guy because they were fading out so much. So I just put them back in. This is our main ghosty, so he needs to make sure, you want to make sure his are there. Okay, that looks fantastic. That's super cute. It's really subtle, but it's a nice touch. Now you want to move to your teeny, teeny, tiny brush, and you want to really dry it off and dip it in the black and hope that your bleed proof white is dry. So we're going to give him his eyeballs. Okay, those worked. I would like them a little darker, but I might end up letting this dry and coming back in and darkening those eyes. This guy was looking over here. Oops. Okay, so he wasn't dry enough. That's okay. I have a clean paper towel. And I can just tap that up. And we can go back in and fix it. I am rushing a little bit and I probably shouldn't. So don't rush, let things dry. See if these are dry. Oh, wrong color. Okay, so we had 3 work out of, or 2 work out of 3. We'll come back in here, we'll fix that. Okay, so we're gonna leave this ghost alone because I keep messing him up. I'm gonna try to take out all of that extra stuff. Oh, hey, that worked. Sometimes just going back in and doing that with a paper towel works wonders. This guy's eyes aren't dark enough for me, so we're gonna darken them up. And then we're having the same problem. Okay, apparently I need more patience. Let's put in some birds because I have the patience for birds and that part's dry. So you've seen it before. They're just kind of little V's. And you add in a little bit of a body. You would have them go in a little bit different directions and a little shorter. Like, no one is going to judge you on your birds, and those could be bats. There we go. We got our birds. Now we need to put some grass in the front. We're going to hope. We're just going to tap these ghosts and make them dry. Oh, we're going to use the big one. We're going to use a 6 and black. And a sponge. We're actually going to use the sponge first. The sponge is dirty. Use the other side of the sponge. A little bit more black since I got some bleed proof white into it. I'm going to use another section of the brush or the sponge that is clean and not covered in bleed proof white. And we're going to make some bushes. You can do the outline of the bush first to get where you want them to go. And some bushes over in here. This one's not going to go as far back as that one. Honestly, I just realized I have a black marker. I may just go in and do the eyes with the black marker. I think that might be easier. All right, so we're just, and as you layer this, it'll be darker, lighter, it's totally fine. We want it to go up to the mist. Okay, and now I have a black marker. This is a Tombow. I'm going to use the pointy side. We're going to do those eyes one more time. Oh, those look so much better. Yeah, just skip what I did before. Okay, and then we want grass. Okay, the marker is, that side of the marker is not going to work because the paint's too wet. So we're using the brush side. You want to vary the length and the direction. You can clean your marker off on your paper towel too if you get too much paint in it, or you could let it dry which is what normal people would do. So you can let it dry and then come back in and add any extra details that you want. I'm going to take the tape off before it dries too much because I want to make sure I get those lines without ripping my paper. So take it at a 45-degree angle, go slowly if you can. Obviously, my patience was not super there today. Okay. And this is a 1/2-inch tape that I just put on the very edges of the paper to make sure that the lines were straight. So I use the edge of the paper to make sure I get straight lines. And I hope that the paper edges are straight. And there you have your spooky house with ghosts. Definitely let it dry, come back, look at it with a fresh set of eyes, see if it needs anything. This one needs to go outside the edge because that's what I wanted it to do. Maybe come back over with your pen. You can also use just a regular pen. I'm gonna take that one off the side too. Sometimes I like the clean edges and then I like it to go off the side of the edges. Try one more time on these eyeballs. We definitely have to wait for that to dry. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed painting with me today. I hope you enjoyed this creepy little ghosts with mist in front of a spooky house with all sorts of weird, crazy techniques. I thought it was a lot of fun. I hope you did too. And make sure to tag me in Instagram, Drunken Aunt Wendy, so I can see what you did. And we'll see you next time. It's also ghosts. Yay, ghosts. All right. Thanks. Bye.